How can I be financially independent by 30? Okay, right out of the gate, I have to admit, this is a very aggressive savings goal. Most people who reach financial independence by their 30th birthday do so through an inheritance or winning a lottery or starting a business of their own. And the lottery winners and heirs usually lose financial independence before they reach 50. Now, if you don't fall into one of those three camps, there is a path to retiring or being financially independent by the time you're 30, but it is not for the faint of heart. In this video, we're going to run through some various scenarios. We'll talk about income and how it impacts how much you can save. We'll talk about savings rates and how that impacts the size of the portfolio. And then when we're done with that, we're going to look at how much income these portfolios might actually produce to give you an idea of how much you can expect to glean or pull from them if you did happen to retire by 30. This should be fun. Let's jump in and see how you might pull this off. Okay, this video we're going to run through a lot of numbers, and I think numbers are always easier to talk about when they're in the context of a story. And to help us tell that story, we're going to use a character I like to call Average Joe. Average Joe is a representation of the average person, right? For the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that Average Joe is a college graduate. We're going to assume that Average Joe has an annual income of $55,260. That's the average starting salary of a college graduate in 2023 in the United States. We're also going to assume that Joe is investing heavily in stocks because he's got to have an aggressive portfolio to reach his retirement goal by 30. And we're going to assume that Joe gets an annual salary increase of 5%. Finally, since every year that Joe can save is going to count toward that early retirement, we're going to count year 30 as well. So years 22 through 30 of Joe's life will go into these tables. That's a 9-year span that he'll be saving and building his portfolio for early retirement. Hey, if you haven't already, please click the like and subscribe buttons below. It helps our channel grow, helps people learn about finance with us. Now, we've already acknowledged that retiring or reaching financial independence by 30 is a really tall order. It's going to require a lot of work, and it's not for the faint of heart. But it's not really building the portfolio that concerns me the most about Joe's likelihood of success. It's the 50-year retirement window. See, the average life expectancy in the United States for a man right now is 76, and for a woman it's 79. So you're talking about retiring at age 30. For a man, you're looking at a 46-year retirement, and for a woman, you're looking at a 49-year retirement. That is a very long time to live off a single portfolio. And said another way, what we're going to try to do is build a 50-year retirement portfolio in 9 years. Planning for a slow and steady withdrawal rate will be a big part of Joe's success. That's why we're going to look at a variety of withdrawal rates after we calculate how much each portfolio could be. But first, let's look at what sort of portfolio Joe could expect to build based on his income. Okay, so what you're looking at is the written form of this post. We did this on our website not long ago. And the reason we're going to this is, one, just so you can see the website and where it's written, and also because this is the easiest way to display the information that we put together about Average Joe. So in this first table, this is Average Joe with average income. This is the $55,260 starting income. As you can see, it increases every year at a rate of 5%. And these columns are basically a savings rate of 30%, 40%, 50, 60, 70, and so on, and the cumulative value of those savings rates over time. So over the 9-year period that Joe will be saving up until age 30, and the results are below. So we'll put a little information over here on the right so you can kind of see the parameters we use and follow that. A couple things I want to point out. First is the importance of an aggressive savings rate. If you're only putting back 30% of your income, I mean, $286,000 by the time you're 30 is pretty awesome. That's really a great portfolio at that age. But if you want to retire then, that's only about $11,000 of income annually if you have a 4% withdrawal rate. And 4% would be pretty aggressive considering you'd only be 30 years old and you need the portfolio to last like 50 years. So that's Joe at an average income. We also ran a scenario where Joe maybe has an above average income. Maybe Joe studied STEM and has a better job or something, paying job in technology or something. I don't know. So if this is Joe's income starting at $83,000 a year, which is 50% higher than the average that we started with, And you can see the same, I don't need to explain it again, but the results, you almost reach $500,000 at the 30% savings rate on this table, and you do reach $1 million for 70 and 80% savings rates, which is really great. Again, this is more hopeful. I think it's starting to look like we're getting somewhere, but we'll talk more about the likelihood of success here in a minute. Finally, we want to look at what would Joe, how he would do if his income was double the average. So this is a starting income of $110,520. Again, all the savings rates are there. You clear $500,000 at the 30% savings rate in this scenario. You almost make it to $1 million at the 50% savings rate, and you're well over at 60 and 70 and then 80. You're all the way at $1.5 million, which is really great. Speaking of withdrawal rates, you may already be familiar with the 4% rule, which basically serves as a safe withdrawal rate for the average retiree. But retiring at age 30 is not average. Let's look at the income Joe might expect to receive from these portfolios based on a variety of withdrawal rates. Okay, next we want to scroll down and look at how much income these portfolios will produce, because ultimately it's great to have a big pool of money, but to last 50 years, Joe's going to need income out of those portfolios. So how much would each one produce at given savings rates? Now you'll notice we got the same kind of row here. We just took age 30, so this is the very end of Joe's portfolio run. This one you're looking at is based on his average annual income, so that starting rate of around $52,000 or $55,000, I think it was. And we have three different withdrawal rates. We have a 2%, 3%, and 4% withdrawal rate. Now, the 4% is kind of the gold standard. It's one we talked about already, where there's about a 30-year retirement window. You should have success there. The problem is, this is a 50-year retirement window. So if you retire at 30 and you live a normal life, you're going to die in your late 70s. You may live in your 80s or 90s. So you kind of need to curb that withdrawal rate a bit so the portfolio will actually last your lifetime. Now, at 4%, the 80% savings rate gives you a $31,000 annual income at 4% withdrawal, which is great. But will the portfolio last at that rate? If you go more conservative, you're looking at $23,000 or $15,000, and at 30%, I just don't see how that produces a fruitful retirement unless you are really, really disciplined in your expenses. If you go to the 1.5 average incomes with 50% above average, this is where we started out about, I think it was $110,000. You can see at the 4% withdrawal rate, you're up to above a $45,000 annual income from the portfolio, which is, again, really good. I'm really starting to see some possibility here. It's looking better, but again, at these lower rates, it's not very strong, just to be honest. And then finally, double the average savings rates. At 80%, to me, 60 grand is very doable. Even 50, high 40s, that's a pretty solid retirement. And that'll get you to a point in life where, you would have some Social Security income, you wouldn't have much, because your working life, you wouldn't have paid much into the system. But that's helpful to have. I'm assuming some of you who are watching this video were hoping or expecting for more impressive annual income from the portfolios or bigger portfolios themselves. If that's the case, we've got one more table for you to consider. I want you to look back at the very first table we did when Joe's income was $55,260. I want you to notice at year 30 and the 30% savings rate, the amount the portfolio grew. It was over $50,000 in that last year. And if you look at 80%, it was over $135,000 in a single year. Now, this is compound interest working its magic. Basically, Joe's portfolios have reached a point where they're growing more through earnings than they are through contributions. And actually, Joe's contributions matter less and less as the earnings build from just the huge capital base that's in those portfolios. That's a really exciting milestone to reach in investing, because it basically means that your portfolio is outworking you. Even if you go to work each day, if you're contributing your 401k, IRA, whatever you're doing, suddenly you realize that your army of dollar bills, if you will, is actually working harder than you are. And it can produce more income for you. It can build your portfolio larger than you could even do for yourself. It also begs the question, what would happen if you worked a little longer? How much larger would that portfolio get? Well, this last table is going to look at that. Now we're going to go back to Joe's original salary of $55,260, and we're going to pick up at year 31. Now it's grown from age 22 to 31 by 5% per year. And starting at age 31, we're going to reduce the rate at which that income increases. So I think we were doing 5% in the first decade. We're going to do 3.5% from 31 on up, because as you age, typically your annual salary increases get a little bit lower. So 3.5% we feel is a little more realistic. Okay, so for this last table, what we've done is we've taken the average income, $55,260 that we started with, and we've backed down the increase in salary, which I think I already said in the video. But in this table, you can kind of see what happens if you extend the period before you retire or declare financial independence. 1 year, every year from age 31 all the way up to 50. We'll scroll down slowly in a second, but you can see just by extending 1 year, you're up to 340 now at the 30% range. And what I really want to highlight is at age 39, you clear $1 million, which is just outstanding. Being a portfolio millionaire before you're 40 is just really outstanding. Even if you didn't contribute any more into saving and things like that, at this rate, there's enough momentum. The portfolio is just going to build. And at these higher savings rates, it's even more impressive. With the 80% savings rate, you're over $1 million by the age 32. Again, this is the average income. If you had a higher income, you get there even faster. And if you wanted to hang with it, I'll scroll down slowly here so you can kind of see the numbers build. Age 40, you're well into the millions in every bracket. By the time you hit 50 at 80% savings rate, you're over $10 million, which should be more than enough to get you through retirement. All right, I have a few closing thoughts after we've looked at all that. First, if you do want to retire at age 30, you've looked at all this and you're just dead set on it, I'd advise you to use caution. First off, if you want to leave the workforce just because you hate your job, I'd first consider getting another job. Life is too short to work in a job you hate. But that's also not a reason to cram your career into a single decade. If you're in your 20s, there's plenty of time to look into other careers, try other things. I'd consider that first before going to this extreme measure. And the second thing is, if you're just dead set on retiring at 30, spend that 29th year running a stress test. Watch your expenses closely. Think about everything that you'll need to pay for that you won't have at age 30. Try to account for changes in your lifestyle. The first thing you need to think about is health insurance. That's going to be a major cost if you're not working anymore and getting insurance through a health plan from work. The second thing is, do you have kids? Will you have kids? Will you have more kids? Kids can be a major dynamic shift in your expenses each year, and you need to account for that. All right, I hope this was at least somewhat helpful in painting a picture of what it would look like to retire by the age of 30. It would not be for the faint of heart, but if you can do it, I say more power to you. We'll provide a link to the written version of this post in the description below. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you found it helpful. Check out our social media channels as well if you haven't done that already. Those are on the screen below. As always, we're so grateful for your interest in our videos. God bless and take care.